Lotro's 16th anniversary is well underway, and I thought I would just show what you get from your 16-year anniversary gift box. Luckily for my account, it is a 16-year-old account. I have opened the gift box every year, and for this year's portrait, you get the 16-year frame that looks like this. As always, there's a unique title, and this year it's the Illuminator title that I have. And the last part of the 16-year box is the incandescent lightning fireworks. And of course, we'll take a look. I'll set off the fireworks, and we can just see what it looks like. So I would say a pretty standard fireworks this year. Those are your gifts from the 16-year gift box. As always, during the festival, there's a lot of cosmetics that you can get. And new this year, of course, is the fireworks laden goat being displayed here currently. And I think the goat looks pretty nice, actually. I might consider getting it. Like the little fireworks on the back. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that we've seen before. A lot of cosmetics. You have the fireworks laden goat, Steed of Crystal Resolve, and of course, anything from the past will still be here that you can get. There's also a new cosmetic pet, the Anniversary Celebration Goat. You see in the top left corner right here. Kind of resembles the goat mount that we get this year. There's of course the cosmetic walking staff, which I do find pretty funny. Keeping in the goat theme with a walking stick looking like a goat. Kind of cool. And of course, like every anniversary, there's a bunch of stuff you can get. If you're a lover of cosmetics, the anniversary is really good for you. Just go check them out. Do the quests, get your tokens, and barter for your items. If we take a look at the 2023 public event schedule for Lotro, you can see that we're now in April. Of course, we're at the anniversary, 16 years. You got the gifts, and quite conveniently there's also a VIP event boost where you get your double VIP bonus lasting for about 5 days. Also worth noting, the curator returns in just 2 days from this video, so on Monday I believe, and it seems like the curator will stay for about 2 weeks. So the curator is stopping by during this anniversary, staying for a couple of weeks. There's also a skirmish marks bonus coming up. But more notably, Shadowfax gets level 140 Gundabat and before the shadow cap on May 3rd, so not that far off. And it seems like Shadowfax is nearing the end of its lifespan. Other notable things coming as well in May, the legendary item levels will increase from 485 to 490 on May 23rd. That's only about a month away, where we once again increase our item levels on our allies. There's also a crafting XP bonus coming up on May 11th. And more notable, worth noting, on May 17th, we get virtues increased from 85 to 86. And at the same time, we get the legendary item reward track season 6. So quite a few big things happening in the next month or so. One other thing I thought I would take a look at is the brand new item that's in the store. Elrond's Tracery Collection level 140. The price is 2500 Lotro points. And of course, as always, it's up to each player to decide, is this worth for me? This box contains a legendary tracery of your choice and 2 incomparable traceries of your choice. So basically what this means, you get 1 gold tracery and you get 2 teal traceries free of choice. So obviously you can choose the ones you want, but personally to me it might seem like quite a steep price for 1 legendary and 2 teal. But each to their own. If you feel like you want to buy this to improve your legendary items, go ahead and do so. Elrond's Tracery Collection gives you 1 gold tracery and 2 teal tracery of your choice. And it's also worth mentioning that you get double Lotro bonus points if you buy Lotro points in the store, and this will last through April 30th. If we take a look at the Sagrath loot table, so our brand new 6-man, you can see that there's a luxurious food recipe that can drop, and by looking through the loot table we can see that only on tier 5 does the luxurious recipe drop. So obviously this recipe is gonna drop from the raid as well, and the recipe can drop in 4 different outputs: regen food, will resist food, might resist food, or agility resist food. So there's 4 different outputs that can drop, and I was lucky enough to be in a group where it dropped and I won the role for the item, and I now have the luxurious freshwater fish plate recipe on my cook. And as you can see, there's a pretty long cooldown, 18-hour cooldown on this food. It requires some basic ingredients that are pretty easy to get. You have to go fishing, get some fish fillet, and of course it requires the brand new item, the Crimson Thistle, that can drop from the instances or from doing the weekly. And if you get a crit, you get 6 luxurious freshwater fish plates, the best regen food in the game at this point. And of course, what's great about this food is that it lasts for 2 hours and persists through death. And it also has really good in combat power regen stats. So really good food for raiding. It means you don't have to refresh your food after every fight, but you can instead raid for 2 hours without having to eat your food once again. So if you're able to do tier 5 of the 6-man, try to get your food recipes. Of course, you can also get teal outputs of the resist food that we have, might, agility, and will. But in my opinion, the best drop is of course having the regen food for the great in combat power regen. You can also reset the cooldown of the recipe with mithril coins if you want to do that, or you can just wait the 18 hours and craft your precious teal regen food. I also wanted to speak a bit about Bullroarer. There was a Bullroarer scheduled for this week. I believe it was supposed to open on Thursday, maybe even Friday, but it would not be opened. Sorry for the delay is the message we got. So it seems like we're going to get another beta next week for the raid update, which is 35.1.1. And the reason I'm saying this is that Cordovan posted an update on the timing for the new raid, Ghynyverse, the Witch King's Citadel. And in this message he said, "We are preparing a Bullroarer preview for the near future," which would probably mean next week is my guess, early next week, to see the latest updates to Ghynyverse, the Witch King's Citadel. Initially, the update 35.1 release notes gave an April 26th release date, but we are shifting that date out by a bit. We'll have more information about the raid's release date in addition to our next Bullroarer preview potentially as soon as next week. Thank you. So in my opinion, what this means is next week we're going to get another Bullroarer to test out mechanics and bugs in the raid. And I think we will get the raid the week after that, or maybe another week after. And just speaking for myself, I would much rather have a finished raid with mechanics than a somewhat buggy raid on release. So I'm sure most people would agree with me that I would rather wait a couple of more weeks for a better raid than getting a buggy raid early. So I fully support this decision. Please just make sure the raid is good and finished before you release it. The players don't mind waiting a bit extra for good content. We still have some 3-mans and 6-mans to grind, so there shouldn't be any big problems. Just make sure the raid is good, and the players won't mind waiting a couple of extra weeks. I also wanted to look at the drop tables from Sagrath and Ghynyverse. These are loot tables from BR, as you can see, so they're brand new and probably going to come to the game with our next update. As always, big credits to Frost from the Lotro Prog Discord, always putting up these really nice tables for people to look at the loot and the drop chances. And by starting off, we can look at the Sagrath loot. I don't think there's any major changes except for the gold class items. All are getting a higher drop rate with this update. As you can see on tier 4, it's 15% plus, and tier 5, 20% plus. It seems like the drop chance for portents have decreased a bit, but it should be much easier to get your gold class items with the next update if these changes go live. Currently the drop chance is quite low for some classes, so this is a very welcome change. Looking forward to this change. We also had updates to the raid loot pool. Just briefly looking at it, I think for me the most notable thing is the last boss. The portent drop rate is 10%, which is really good. So a 10% chance for a portent if you kill the last boss on higher tiers. And it seems like the special lump of silver for the new gold necklaces has an increased drop rate. 3% on tier 2, and then 3, 4, 5 has 6% drop rate. And honestly, I know the power traceries are new and shiny, but as far as I know, the power traceries are just a noob trap that people don't use. If you use the power traceries, you're kind of wasting slots for something more important. And I sincerely hope that the power traceries just get removed from the raid drop table. 25% of your drop chance on the last boss is a power tracery, and that's going to be a big letdown to get a power tracery. Just imagine killing Shard of Tower Star on tier 5 and boom, you get a power tracery. That's a big letdown. So I do think the drop tables for the raid are a little bit lackluster, and hopefully we will see some changes to this when we get release. But in any case, these are the updated drop tables for the 6-man and for the raid for the new update on Bullroarer. I also wanted to talk about the new 3-mans and 6-men a bit, and they've been out for a few weeks now, and I just want to give a little bit of feedback what I think of the 3-mans and the 6-man. Obviously this footage is from the first time ever I did Towersgar on tier 3, and the dailies are fine. And of course you can pick up stuff for your dailies. The dailies only give the reputation and tokens that you don't really need. So, and personally I don't really do the dailies because it's not worth my time. I don't really care about housing that much, so there's nothing for me to get. I wish there were more barter options on the barters, but it is what it is. But speaking of the 3-mans and the 6-man, the amount of trash mobs I thought is really good and healthy. I think they struck a pretty good balance with the trash mobs. It's not too much, it's not too little. So I think for the 3-mans and the 6-man, the length is pretty good for what they are. So when it comes to the first boss of this 3-man, it's not really a boss fight, more of a solve a puzzle, you know? For those who don't know, there's 4 cauldrons here, and there's some flames on the walls representing which order to do these cauldrons. And you basically just click the cauldrons in the correct order and boss 1 is done. And I think it's fine, it's a little bit of a change from the traditional bosses, but for a 3-man I think it's fine to do a little different boss like this. And after you do this puzzle, you then loot your chest and you move on to boss 2. Boss 2 on this 3-man Towersgar, you fight the melee boss. In front, he's in the arena walking freely. He does a induction frontal, a induction behind him as well, like a backle you can call it. And he also has some basic frontal damage, so he is fine for what he is. Then you have the 3 bile tanks and his boss in the background just walking between them. And honestly, this fight can be a bit tedious, a bit too long. The boss in the back, you have to damage the tanks to blow up on him to do damage. And he kind of walks randomly sometimes he will just stay in one place. So I think this boss fight is not the best, but for a 3-man it's fine. But over time it gets really boring, a really boring fight over time. But like I said, for a 3-man it's a fine fight, it does the job. And you basically just keep killing tanks until the boss in the back dies and you get your loot. That is Towersgar, the one 3-man that we have. The other 3-man is the Poison Gardens in St. Lore, and this is the first time I did that as well on stream. And this fight is also good with the trash, I think. Not too much, not too little. You get to boss 1. There's not a lot of mechanics on boss 1. You fight these 2 guys. Tank doesn't really take any notable damage, and you don't really need a healer if you're geared enough. The only mechanics I've seen here is if you touch the thorn bushes, you will get a bleed and take some damage from that. But other than that, boss 1 is really a tank and spank, and pretty easy for most groups I would imagine. You then move on, kill some more trash mobs until you get to boss 2. And boss 2 I think is a pretty good fight for a 3-man. A lot better than the other 3-man for sure. This boss fight has a lot more mechanics to look out for. There's corruptions, there's ads, there's some puddles in the corners. So you kind of need to watch your feet, you need to get corruptions, and kind of work together with your tank. So I think this boss fight is way more interesting than the other one. So Saint Lore as a 3-man as a whole is pretty good for a 3-man. And of course we have the new 6-man Sagroth. And Sagroth is by far the better instance of the 3. Trash mobs in Sagroth is a perfect, they did really well with the amount of trash mobs. It doesn't feel too much. Kind of go through it at a good pace typically. This is footage that I just did on tier 5 on my Bjorning. And boss 1, we get to boss 1 quite easily. And boss 1 I think is a fine fight for a boss 1. You have a boss, you have some ads. You just basically nuke down the boss, that's the main strat. And at some point you get some more ads, some sickle flies and some slugs. But if you do some good CC, you can kind of lock them down and keep them out of the fight for a while. But you can also bring in the ads and just do as much CC as you can. So this fight requires a bit of CC, a bit of interrupts on sorcerers if they do their healing to make the fight easier. And of course the slugs and the sickle flies should be dealt with as well. So all in all, I think this boss 1 of the 6-man is a pretty good fight for a boss 1 of a 6-man. After you kill boss 1, there's more trash mobs, and the trash from boss 1 towards boss 2 is a lot harder than the ones towards boss 1. You get a lot more sickle flies, a lot more slugs to deal with. So at this point the trash are a bit harder, but I still think they've hit a good balance with the amount of trash pulls. You kind of have to work a bit to get to boss 2. But eventually you get to boss 2, which is a Radarig, the rat. And this fight is by far the best boss fight in the instance cluster so far before the raid. I won't really go into the mechanics a lot, but there's some corruptions, there's ads to be dealt with, and there's movement. You need to cleanse a disease. So by far my favorite boss fight in the raid. And you can also bring a lot of different compositions to this fight, meaning that no class is really left out of the fight, which is really good in my opinion. So in my opinion, this boss fight is really good for a 6-man. And I can only reiterate my point here, you get to play with more of your friends in a 6-man than a 3-man. I really wish that they would just scrap the 3-mans and only do the 6-man. I would much rather see 2 6-mans of this quality than a 6-man of this quality and 2, let's call them what they are, mediocre plus 3-mans. They're fine, but they're not great. I don't think there needs to be a place for the 3-mans. You're excluding classes like the meta for 3-mans will always be tank and 2 DPS. You're kind of leaving out support and healers. While in this 6-man, what happens in the 6-man, the first class to be locked out is Lore Master support. They're looking for a Lore Master, everyone's locked. So 6-man includes every class, every build. I really wish they would just stop making 3-mans. I hope that will be the case for Umbar, the Umbar expansion. Please just do more 6-mans. It's much more fun to play with more people and more classes involved than the 3-mans, which are hard to balance because players will just do a tank and 2 DPS. Please, no more 3-mans, just give us more 6-mans. That's what I want, more 6-mans. Just scrap 3-mans, please. 3-mans, compared to the 6-man, the 3-mans are boring. I'll just say that. 3-mans get boring, they're just a mindless farm. The 6-man is fun. You play with friends, you have fun, you have a good time, get some loot, and more classes can be included, meaning more of your friends can play. Please just stop making 3-mans, just give us more 6-mans instead. That's what I think, and that's what I hope everybody else agrees with me, and I hope they think that as well. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to help out the channel, leave a like, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're playing or looking to play Lord of the Rings online, there is one place you need to be. The Ghynverse! The Ghyniverse is a community Discord server for the game Lord of the Rings Online. In this server, you'll find anything from giveaways. There's also a frequently asked questions channel that I would recommend checking out first. You'll be able to see when I put out new YouTube videos, whenever I stream. You can also ask for the streamer role, and you'll be able to post your own streams in this server for everyone to see. There's currently over 5,000 members in this Discord, and it keeps growing. You will also find discussion channels about the game, Lotro. You can ask any questions in the help channel. There's discussions for every single class in the game and PvP. But one of the best things about this server is the best in slot items section. In this section you can find trait lines for every single class. You will find screenshots of the current best gear being displayed. In this channel you'll find charts showing what stats you need for your characters, mitigations, mastery crit, finesse, but you'll also find useful information about drop rates in different instances. I hope you will consider joining my server, and maybe one day I'll see you in Middle-earth.